Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is Force, and today we will be taking a look at the skill system and character customization in the Elder Scrolls Online. You know, this game does have the classes and the ability to fill standard roles. You can play a Sorcerer as a ranged magic damage dealer. You can play a Dragon Knight as a tank or a two-handed heavy armor damage dealer. And you can play a Nightblade as a rogue or archer. But at the same time, depending on your choices, you could play a Sorcerer as a battle mage with a big two-handed weapon and heavy armor. You could play a Sorcerer as a tank. You could play a Sorcerer as a crowd control, a group-focused class. I could play my Nightblade as a tank. I could play my Nightblade as a healer. You can play a Dragon Knight as a magic damage dealer in light armor. There's so many different combinations. It really just boils down to what preferred playstyle you have and how you want to do your damage, how you want to fill your role. So let's start off by talking about the skill system and how you acquire skills. You get skill points in 3 different ways. Number 1 is through leveling up. From levels 1 to 50, every time you hit a level, you get a new skill point for 49 total skills. You also get skill points by collecting sky shards. Scattered throughout the world, whenever you get 3 sky shards, you are awarded yet another skill point. And then lastly, you get skill points through major quests. It seems like the main storyline every so often, when you complete an arc, will give you another skill point. It's been said that when all is said and done, you're going to be able to get anywhere between 250 and 300 skill points. That means you'll be able to unlock all of the skills that are available to your character in the game. This is pretty big news because what that means is that having access to all of the skills, with the exception of the class and races that you aren't, means that you can really just pick and choose how you want to play the game and how you want to fill a role and have your character be. So let's take a look at those skill lines. We're going to start off with all of the generic skill lines. Let's begin with the weapons. So weapons, armor, world, guild, alliance war, and crafting skills. Everyone has access to these lines. Starting off with the weapon, we've got a two-handed weapon skill line. This is a melee damage focused skill line, obviously, but it's also focused on sort of doing area damage. We've got ability to hit multiple targets at once. There's some charging, things like that. One-handed and shield, as you would expect, this is going to be a skill line that is focused on being tanky. So even if you're playing a sorcerer and you want to be tanky, you can put on some heavy armor and a one-handed and shield, and you can do it. Dual wielding, this is more of a single target melee damage dealer as opposed to the more area of effect that you are getting from the two-handed focus. We've got the bow, which is also pretty much focused on single target damage. However, this is at a range. There is some area of effect capabilities in here as well, but again, ranged damage dealing. Then we've got the destruction staff for you damage dealing casters out there with all of the skills available. Now remember, all of these have both active and passive skills that you can unlock. And then the restoration staff is, as of course you would expect, a healing focus skill line. And you know, I've seen plenty of healers donning full plate if you want to play sort of like a paladin class. Now onto the armor. No matter where your damage is coming from, whether it's going to be spells or weapons, your armor also helps fill that role. So with light armor, this tree you're going to want to focus on, and you're going to want to wear light armor if you're focused on dealing magic damage. Now magic damage includes your class skills. Even as a Nightblade, I've got skill lines that are really focused on being in melee range. If I'm using those for my primary source of damage, I actually want to wear light armor because light armor buffing up magicka increases my ability to do damage with that and actually increases the damage that I do. Medium armor is focused on melee DPS, so this is if you're going to be wanting to run like a rogue, either with dual wielding or archer, or even if you're running a dragon knight who wants to do focus on DPS, medium armor increases your critical strike chance, it increases your stamina regeneration, and stamina is going to be the resource used for your weapon damage. And then we've got heavy armor. This is just if you want to be tanky. It's increasing resistances, health, ability to block. There is some damage pump up in heavy with Juggernaut, but most of the focus is on being tanky and absorbing damage. Now on to the world skills. At the moment, the only tree that I've seen access to is the soul magic. This will be for filling up soul shards, also things like revival. Weapon kills have a chance to automatically trap souls, so that's all for soul shard focus. There's also this revival one, which is nice. Guild lines. At the moment, access to the Fighters Guild. There's also the Mages Guild, and I do believe that we're going to be getting access to Werewolf and Vampire, and I'm pretty sure that'll go under guilds as well. That could be incorrect though, but I do know that there is a Werewolf and Vampire skill line in this game. The Undaunted appears to sort of be like, I don't know, like a support role. There's some armor buffs and things like that in this line, which are pretty neat. We've got the Alliance War. This is PvP focus. We've got access to both assault skills as well as support skills here. And realize I am just breezing through these because this video would be 3 hours long if I were to read each of these skills. Feel free to pause if you want to read them in depth at any point. And then there are the crafting skills. Now, while you have access to all of the crafting in this game, no matter what, if you want to go further and specialize in that crafting, it is going to require you to spend skill points. They're all basically broken up into the same benefits that you get. It just depends on which skill line that you want to focus on. Right now, for this particular guy, I'm going to be focusing on woodworking because I want the best bows possible. Okay, so those are all the skill lines that I have access to at the moment that are available for everybody. Anyone in the game, no matter your class, no matter your race. Now let's look at the specialized stuff. Starting off with racial here for the Khajiit, we've got, this is pretty good for a Nightblade, really. I've got some really good benefits for anyone who just choose to play a Nightblade character. That's why I picked the Khajiit here. And then the class skills. I'm going to go through all of the classes here. Starting off with the Nightblade, we've got the assassination skill line. This is sort of your primary dual-wielding, damage-dealing skill line. However, keep in mind that if you are focusing on dealing damage from these skills, you will want to focus on magicka, and you might want to wear light armor. I'm wearing medium armor right now because my primary damage is coming from bows. You can see I've leveled bows up the highest. This is what takes up most of my skill tree, and this is where most of my damage is coming from. That's why I'm wearing medium armor. If most of my damage was coming from, and if I was focusing on damage from my class skills, I would want to be wearing light armor, and I would want to be focusing on increasing my magicka. The shadow line is sort of like a support role with the debuffs and crowd control and things of that nature. And then we've got the siphoning line, which basically allows you to, as it sounds, debuff your opponent and increase your capabilities at the same time. So that is the Nightblade. Let's move on to the next class. The Sorcerer's first skill line, Dark Magic, has a focus on crowd control and supporting skills. This would be a good tree if you wanted to build a tanky Sorcerer. Next, we've got Daedric Summoning. This is all about summoning pets, having minions. I've seen people running around with bows and sort of playing as a hunter class with their familiars that are summoned and stuff like that. You can also, sort of think of it as like a necromancer. And then we've got Storm Calling. This is probably the more traditional magey line with focused on high burst to damage capabilities, increased magicka, things like that. Next, we've got the Templar. The first skill line is the Adric Spear. This will be sort of a damage-focused skill line. There is also a balance in here with shields and having blocking capabilities, which is rather interesting. So I could see this being a one-hand and shield damage dealer with light armor. We've got Dawn's Wrath. Dawn's Wrath is more of the support and crowd control abilities. And then we've got lastly Restoring Light, and this will be if you want to play a healer as a Templar. And our final class to look at is the Dragon Knight. The first skill line, Ardent Flame. This will be damage focused, sort of magicka damage focus. Obviously, Flame, the focus is on dealing fire damage. If you wanted to deal maximum Ardent Flame damage, again, you would probably be wearing light armor with a focus on increasing your magicka. Then we've got Draconic Power. This will be a tanky skill line for anyone who wants to wear heavy armor and be tanky, or wear light armor and get more effectiveness out of these abilities. And then finally, we've got Earthen Heart, and this is the support, control, knockdown, CC sort of skill line. And that generally seems like all the classes are broken up into damage dealing, support, and then a third one, whatever that be it siphoning, stuff like that, control, whatever, healing, depending on if you're the Templar. But yeah, that is the three skill lines. Now, you can see right here, I've got this Dragon Knight. He's focusing on heavy armor, and he's focusing on being tanky with a one-hand and shield. And I've been dumping my points early on into stamina. Now, we're not going to talk about the late game stat distribution. I'm just focusing on while we're leveling up and the general principle. The general principle, once again, is magicka. If you're dealing magic damage, that includes your skill lines. Any damage coming from your skill lines is magic damage. You will want to focus on magicka. You will be increasing stamina if you want to do weapon damage. So weapon damage is coming from two-handed, one-handed, and shield, dual wielding, and bow. The destruction and restoration staff are based off of magicka as far as I'm aware, though. And then health. Health is just health. Increase the amount of damage that you can take. So however you play it, you can mix and match and really make what you want to from all of these skill lines. You've got the 5 skill slots. There's also a weapon slot, which gives you 5 more plus an individual ultimate for both of those weapon slots. And for example, I have got another Dragon Knight. He's running around with a two-handed weapon, but he is focused on dealing Ardent Flame damage. I've got him spec'd in a bunch of Ardent Flame skills, and to maximize those skills, he's wearing a lot of light armor, which is going to increase his ability with magicka, increase his capabilities, his regeneration, the damage that is dealt because of max magicka, increase all of that. So customize, tailor to how you want. There's so many different options in this game. I'm very intrigued to see how people take this system and build the characters of their dreams and to fill the play styles that they want. I've been sticking more traditional, but I am trying some mixing things, and I've heard that a sorcerer that is focused on being tanky can actually be nearly as good as a tanky Dragon Knight who's got his entire skill tree that is focused on being tanky, you know? Because of mitigation and the different armor buffs and stuff like that, and then depending on the armor that you use, it's kind of crazy and honestly really neat. So I'm looking forward to when more people get in this game, when it eventually launches, seeing all those hardcore theory crafters go to work. There's already quite a bit of work being done at places over like Tamriel Foundry, and it's a fun read to sort of see how people are trying these different skills, putting them together to make different builds, different types of characters, and fill different roles. All right, guys, well, hopefully that answered most of your questions about the skill system in this game and how character customization works. If you have any further questions, please be sure to ask in the comment section below. I'm sure there'll be plenty of people that'll be watching this who'll be able to respond and answer any of them. And then if I see any big prevailing questions that a lot of people have, I might cover it in another future video. And that is going to do it, guys, for this video taking a look at the skill system and character customization in the Elder Scrolls Online. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more ESO coverage coming up. And as always, keep watching and keep owning.